Okay, now we're ready for some questions with Dr. Gaines. Dr. Gaines, with the reports of unemployment, how does the PPP program play into it from the independent contractor status, getting PPP loans and unemployment?
As I understand it, the independent contractors are eligible to request the funding through PPP program. And as you know, they've had to refund it, add additional funds to the original program. I don't know what the status of the compliance is. I don't know. From what I've read and what I've heard is that independent contractors are treated just like any other business, and they're in the queue in terms of being able to participate in the program. My guess is that that program is going to have to get funded yet a third time, because I can't imagine that they've got enough money allocated to that to handle all of the requests that are going to come in.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What effect do you think NAR's May 1st clear cooperation policy will have on the tech market, if any? Or on the market, I'm sorry.
I don't know that for the May 1st, it'll be marginal impact, simply because the market is going to take most of the month of May and June to kind of get back into the groove. We've got a few states like Texas now that's allowing open house showings and in-person showings. A lot of states are still shut down. So I think that impact, I'd look for that maybe to be postponed. Whatever the impact is going to be postponed at least 30, 60, maybe 90 days.
Okay. Next, is the fact that high unemployment happened so quickly making it worse than the Great Depression, or is it less of a concern because it was mostly government mandated?
That's a good question, and the first thing to understand is, because everybody's really scared and nervous right now, and when I say everybody, a lot of the economists that are studying this, very nervous about the current recession and the current downturn, which was so sharp and so short term that it doesn't linger. That if something comes down that fast, will it bounce back up like a rubber ball and come back up in a reasonably short term and kind of offset itself? That's the hope, and kind of really, to be precise, that's the expectation, although the expectation is that it may not bounce right immediately back to 100%. So the answer to the specific question is, it is very different than the Depression of the 30s. It took a year and a half to get to about a 25% unemployment rate, which was the peak rate that was recorded during the course of the Depression. And it took a year and a half to almost 2 years to get there. We're approaching it in about 6 or 7 weeks. So again, that rapid decline, you're hoping, and because it was also not, the cause of this was not fundamentally an economic recession. There was nothing wrong with the market. Nothing really went wrong in the marketplace. We had the health impact with the virus, and by mandate, and really, I think by and large by the population voluntarily, shut everything down and everybody went home. So we'll have to see just how quick they come out of the house and go back to work, and most importantly, go back to spending money and going about their daily business as they did before. That's the part that's probably going to take a couple of 3 months to really click back in. Okay. Long answer to the question. Very good.
Okay. Next, do you feel Texas is running out of unemployment money and or very low at best?
Of course, yeah. Texas is, I heard a report last week that Texas state tax revenues are declining anywhere from 10 to 15% per month. And that's the best estimate. It could be worse than that, because we're losing sales tax revenues, motor tax revenues, extraction tax from the energy sector, export import fees. I mean, you can go down the list. If you go out to the comptroller's office and look at the sources of revenue for the state, all of them basically are way down, and other states are even worse. But that's another problem. So the state is going to have problems. Now they had a fund for that. I don't know how deep that fund is, to be perfectly honest. I don't know yet. I think they're okay for the short run being the next month or so. If it goes on with, we've had nearly 300,000, I'm sorry, we've had nearly 1.6 million. If we get up to about, if we get over north of 2 million people unemployed, and stay unemployed for any length of time, it is going to be a severe burden. Now, the state does have a rainy day fund that we've all heard about in the past. It looks like to me the rain is coming down, but that's just me.
Okay. What would be some advice for real estate investors? Should they continue buying or holding?
Holding right now, I do believe, and I, as you might imagine, being at the real estate center, we get bombarded with all kinds of information from people around the world that are looking at what's going on. There are going to be opportunities coming out of all of this. There always is. Anytime you have economic conditions shift, go up, go down, come back, opportunities are created. And I think that those opportunities are going to be created again when coming, maybe not this month, but in the coming 6 to 9 months, some opportunities will start emerging, residential and commercial.
Okay. Do you think the price of houses will go up or down?
I'm sorry, say again, Roxy.
The price of houses, do you think they're going to go up, or do you think they're going to go down or stay about the same?
The answer, the honest answer, short term, they're going to kind of stay the same. It's going to be a matter of how quickly this housing market demand comes back. And this is just simply an opinion. We don't have a model for this, so this is not based on any kind of statistical correlation, regressions, or anything else. Just my opinion. But I really think that the housing prices will continue to rise. I think the pace, the percentage increases will probably slow down a little bit. We won't see the 8-9% increases that we saw a few years ago, but I think easily that we'll go back to quote unquote our normal rate of increase of about 3 or 4% a year. Now, in the next month or two is going to be interesting to see. I can tell you that the preliminary April numbers are showing us that home prices, median home price around the state went up about 3% in round numbers. And Dallas-Fort Worth is going to be somewhere in that same vicinity. So I think that home prices are going to pretty well, kind of maintain. In fact, I can tell you our preliminary numbers. I pulled it up here for April. The Dallas-Fort Worth area home prices, although sales were way down, double-digit percentage decline in the pace of sales, the actual median price went up nearly 6%.
Okay. Do you have a good website where people can go to see this data and these numbers as they change?
Absolutely, absolutely. recenter.tamu.edu. It's
Okay.
recenter.tamu.edu, and all of our data are out there on the website. If you Google just real estate center, I think we come up first.
Okay, great. And what's your forecast for the 30-year mortgage rate at year end? And what do you think the spread will be above the 10-year Treasury?
Well, the spread on the 10-year Treasury right now is completely out of whack of what it has historically been. That spread was about 170 basis points historically. And right now it's a good deal because the 10-year Treasury right now is sitting at about 0.6. And the 30-year fixed mortgage rate for Freddie Mac is sitting at about 3.25. And those are just round numbers. You'll find it varying around. By the end of the year, I suspect we'll see some 3% 30-year fixed rate mortgage money. But I can tell you that the lenders are probably going for that kind of term. or that interest rate, you're going to need a FICO score probably north of 700 and well north of 700 and 20% down. So I don't think the interest rate so far, the 30-year fixed has been kind of sticky, if you will, using a technical economics term, has been sticky coming down. It hasn't fallen as much as one would think. But I think it'll come down to around 3% and then gradually start creeping back up.
Okay. And then that kind of ties into the next question. They want to know what will happen to the mortgage interest rates later in this year. So I think you kind of just already answered that one.
Yes, ma'am.
And credit requirements, you answered that as well. They're going to tighten up, right?
Yeah, I'm going to claim that one too.
All right. As a real estate investor, what kind of advice can you give? They're concerned about the Rent Mortgage Cancellation Act of 2020, and they just want to know how to advise their investor clients.
We're gonna see it's going to be different for each class of property. If you're talking about residential rental, then you have to decide, are you asking me about single family residential rental versus multifamily residential rental? The multifamily market, quite frankly, the apartment market did not get hit, at least so far. Now, so far, and by so far, I mean for the month of April, did not get hit as hard as they kind of thought they would be in terms of rent forbearance and rent not being paid. It was only off about 4%. Single family rental, however, was hit a lot harder. And there, it becomes a little bit more problematical because if you're an investor, you own one or two or three or a handful of single family rentals. It doesn't take but missing the rent on two or three, and you may have some financial difficulty. Commercial space, retail is going to be the most questionable. It's going to be really difficult. Hotels and motels, but that's not a typical real estate investment anyway. Industrial right now is doing real well. The demand for industrial space is holding up pretty good, so the rents will probably hold up.
Okay.
And office is going to be real mixed. I was trying to hit all the property types.
And also, do you have any estimate on how much job loss there is to the people that are cash earners?
No.
Okay. So
I know what the question is referring to.
Yes.
We have the gig economy, which is something related to the independent contractors. We also have in Texas, particularly, a large segment that work on a cash basis, almost like, quote unquote, almost like migrant workers moving from here to there and so forth and working on cash. And I did have somebody tell me last week that they are concerned that is a significant number of people. Yeah. And both, especially in Dallas and Houston, our urban areas, and they were concerned about these people. A lot of times are not eligible for the unemployment insurance that we were talking about a little while ago. They're not eligible for the extra $600 a week that if you're in the unemployment insurance claim sector that you can get. And a lot of these people are going to become somewhat desperate. We've got to find out how to help them to keep them from becoming too desperate and becoming a more severe social and perhaps safety issue. I know where the people who were talking to me, they were getting concerned about there'd been break-ins in their neighborhood, stuff like that.
Okay, and then we have one more question, and this is about they're seeing a lot of pent-up demand locally. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think so. I think if the sales volume and the listing volumes, and this is going on around the state, but particularly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think everybody, took the month of most of the month or half the month of March, all of the month of April, and are probably going to continue to take a good bit of the month of May off, both buying and selling. Now, it won't stop completely. And in fact, it's amazing, quite frankly, that the volume of business hasn't dropped off even more. I mean, we just mentioned that home sales in the Dallas area down a little more than 20%. It's amazing that it wasn't down 50%. So the market is not being completely clobbered, just sort of clobbered. And so I do think though that in the next, we're going to continue to see those kind of numbers and statistics. And I'm warning our audience, be expecting the April numbers are bad. They're coming out right now. Matrix will be releasing those data tomorrow. May numbers will not be good either. And June numbers won't look good year over year. But remember, May and June last year were really good months. Comparison to this year, they're going to be statistically, the data are going to show that statistically the data are way down. But then I suspect that it'll start picking back up. And remember, the closings are occurring 45, 60 days after the contracts are signed. We've got to get people back in the market looking at houses, signing contracts, and then a month or 2 months later actually closing the deals and being our reported sales. We've basically shifted the sales season out about 3 or 4 months.
So I'm going to do a follow-up question, and then this will be your last question. You're saying the closings are stretching out to closer to 60 days now. When do you see them going back to that normal 30 to 45 day closing period?
We could. First of all, the title companies are getting overwhelmed. They're trying to adapt to the remote closing, the online closing. And I'm just using those as numbers, statistics, because we find the statistics flow that way. If you have a good deal and put it together, it's entirely possible to get a deal closed within 30 days. One of the things you're going to have is being able to get the appraisal and the inspection done. And that's going to slow some things down until inspectors and appraisers and homeowners all feel comfortable, interacting with each other and allowing the inspector and the appraiser to enter the property and look at it.
Okay, well, Dr. Gaines, as always, we really appreciate your insight, and it comes with a lot of knowledge backing it up. And it's always a joy to have you on and to hear from you. And probably in a couple of months, we'll want to have you back. And we can talk
Roxy, I appreciate the kind words, but I got to tell you, every economist that you're listening to or reading right now, we honestly don't know. Because we've never experienced anything like this. We have no models. We have nothing to really go on except our common sense and what we try to find out from people, talking to people in the industry and say, okay, what is really happening? Are you guys really still working? Your agents that are here, are you guys still showing properties? Are you talking to clients? Have you had sellers take their properties off of the market? Have you had buyers say, I'm going to give this another 30, 60 days, and then I'll come back and buy later? I mean, we're not there every day, and we have nothing else to base this on except just what we think.
Okay, well, that's what we've got now, and you seem to come up with really good things. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a great
pleasure.